to inspect it.
There have been many instances in my life that have led me to question everything. In this book, I will share stories of experiences that have ultimately awakened me to the beauty of this universe, that have led me to be a more empathetic and inquisitive person. As you read this, you might even be grappling with your own experiences and asking the biggest why you will ever ask. Understand me when I say this: you are normal. The word paranormal is a merging of the two states, parallel and normal. The word itself is a misnomer for anything that falls outside of the normal, implying something unnatural or impure, which is far from the case. Who decided what is normal? The narrative usually reveals that the phraseology is used to outline the limits of someone else's understanding. So, when we say paranormal, that is something parallel to someone else's defined normal. When we peel back the defined parameters, there are, in fact, no limits. Consider this your calling to start exploring. The pursuit of knowledge often finds you. Hello and welcome back to Paranormal Perspectives. My name is Kieran Stanislaw Mace, and I thought I'd give you a little different look into my life. I spent the last year speaking to other people about their paranormal experiences and trying to gain a better understanding of the kaleidoscope of life in itself, looking at the point of views of people that are skeptical, that are believers, that are experiencers. Some people come from a religious background, some people non-religious, and it's really only afforded me with a wealth of knowledge that it doesn't mean I necessarily subscribe to everybody's ideas, but the whole point is that I'm showing that I can be exposed to other people's concepts, and that in itself has enriched me as a person. We don't talk about the paranormal. It seems to be a limiter. It's a barrier to stop you from learning beyond the defined limits. And those defined limits can be defined by authorities such as religious authorities, it could be societal, it could be social, it could be all sorts of different things. We grow up in these perceptions of understanding without often questioning, well, why do we work within these limits? Why can't we look beyond and know more about the world? I mean, scientists do it every day. Scientists discover entirely new things. Previously, they could be considered paranormal. When they are discovered, they are normal, accepted normal. So we keep throwing this word paranormal around, and it seems to scare people. But really, I'm here today to show you that the paranormal isn't what you think it is. Really, people think it's the no-no area. It's the spooky dooky, as I've learned this year. It's the area of interest where people share stories to scare each other. It's seen as entertainment and just a bit of fun. I get that. There's nothing really wrong with that. But it's when people believe that is literally true. They don't seek beyond that understanding. They just sit as if it's a Halloween treat, a Halloween activity, I suppose. As I've mentioned on the channel previously, I was thrust into the paranormal world following a car accident. And this is a story that I've recently been invited to other podcasts to tell the story. And yes, it's a wonderful opportunity to tell people, okay, well, why do I believe in the paranormal? What started it all? And it's been an amazing opportunity. But here, I'm telling you that being thrust into the paranormal world, it wasn't a wanted thing. I didn't ask for it to happen. In a way, because I was so young, I was quite happy living within the belief system that had been set for me. But this trance experience changed my life, and I could not go back to living the life that I had before. My religious upbringing was Catholic, and I was asked to go to Sunday school every week. I went to kind of Sunday school lessons after. I went through my communion, christenings, confirmations, various different things, and at the time, I felt like I was doing it to keep my parents happy. My mum was a single mum, actually, and she had to raise me and my sister. And she had a hard enough job as it is, working multiple jobs, keeping a roof over our heads, keeping me and my sister fed and safe. And me bringing this new perception following this accident that I had, I didn't want to burden her with this knowing, the burden of knowing, as I mentioned in a previous video. I kept it to myself and carried on going to Sunday school. And to give you a nutshell view of what happened, I was hit by a car when I was a young kid. And in a tremendous way, I was taken to the hospital, the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. And I went through a number of major operations to keep me alive, repair my body. And at some point, despite my legs being severely broken, I woke up and was able to walk through the hospital. I memorised the different faces and the different rooms and the places that I visited in this dream, I suppose I could have called it at the time, because that is what I assumed it was. And eventually I met an entity there that frightened me. It showed me the universe and locations that I eventually discovered were real many years later. After that strange out-of-body experience, and in fact it was a near-death experience though, because my body was giving way, I eventually came to and realised after a few weeks that this place that was in my dream, I knew in reality, because this very kind nurse offered to sit me in a wheelchair to take me around the hospital, and I knew every last left and right turn. I knew all of the different kids in their rooms. This was a paediatric ward, of course. I remember the kids there. I remember all of the locations and the strange place that I met this strange entity that showed me many things. So yeah, imagine discovering that as a kid and then going back to your normal life after, going back to church and trying to be a good boy, so to speak. I felt like, because of that experience, I felt like I was a bad person, that I'd somehow failed God, the God that we worshipped at the time, and my parents. And it hurts. It really hurts, not just to simply go through the psychological and physical trauma of an event like that, but to feel like you have nobody to speak to, nobody that will understand. And being in a religious organisation that judges any imperfections so severely, you wouldn't dare to mention it to them. But how would you even explain the paranormal to them? Because you discover something that was outside the set normal, the canned philosophy that is presented to us, I suppose you could say. And I just had to just keep on living my life day by day by day, and it got more and more and more harder to keep to myself. And it really guts you, it really hurts, it pulls you back over time. And this is where I began to experience in the house that I grew up in various realised phenomena. I'll say more specifically poltergeist phenomena. And I'm not sure if it exactly stemmed from my experience in the hospital, but I believe that something followed me back home that I met in the hospital, because I saw it in my room for years after. And this included items being thrown across the room, exploding items, whistling, music being played in the middle of the room, in the middle of the night. I could hear laughing in the house. You could smell cigarette and cigar smoke. I could hear and feel the most strangest vibrations in this place. And eventually it brings you to a point where you have no choice but to begin to talk about it. And back then I spoke to my sister, and in a way I felt like I almost infected her with the paranormal world, because I was just stuck in this paradox and I needed to get it out because I couldn't live my life much longer. So we began to discuss some of our experiences, not really sharing it with our mum too much. And more specifically, my sister also heard the whistling. She also heard the music in the middle of the night as well, and all the strange feelings we would get in this place. And that was my first real contact with somebody also validating what I had seen. Could we maybe have shared the same hallucination? Maybe a thing. We did share dreams, me and my sister, so maybe we were connected in some way. But it's when people come into your house also stating the same things. We've heard whistling, we've heard music. Also, where is it coming from? And it was kind of back then when I began to realise that the paranormal, is it really paranormal? Is it really parallel to normal? I've been taught to be scared of it for a long time, that anything outside the set belief system, or discovered or defined belief system, is evil. So anything that is different could be to do with Satan or the devil. I don't personally believe in that myself now, but some people do, and I get that because I taught it. I was too scared to let it out. I was too scared to talk to my family. And the damage that did over time was tremendous. It sucked away my confidence. It made it harder to be myself and accept myself. It made me view life as threatening and awful. And I'm glad I began to talk about it then. Admittedly, as I became an adult, I spoke about it very little. As the years went by, I finished secondary school, finished college, finished university, started my first jobs, and I always had the memory of my time spent in that house and all the strange phenomena we all experienced. I kept it close because I just wanted to be a normal person, have a normal job and have a normal life. wanted people to like me and see me as normal as well, because all I craved was normality. None of this ridiculous, almost impossible activity happening in front of our eyes. And it seemed to have died down when we left that property, thankfully, but the memory stayed with me as it changed me as a person. And it was really only until the last, I'd say, year to 2 years of my life, before I turned 40, that I finally, truly, thoroughly told my story about how I was thrust into the paranormal, how my perceptions of reality were broken, and how speaking about it can be not just uplifting, it can be life-changing. And with that, you have to accept that some people will not accept that. I don't know why, really, because some people may come out of certain religions and that's fine. But if you come up with a paranormal story that's parallel to their defined reality, they freak out. They don't like it. They get quite defensive. They almost act as if you're trying to convince them that something is possible. Well, no, you're just stating what has happened. So that's always going to be a thing that plays into you when you do speak out. But with me writing this book, speaking out has been cathartic. It's been part of a healing process. And also I wrote it because I want others to know that these things happen to people of all different backgrounds, that the extraordinary does happen to ordinary people, and holding it in and limiting your perception of reality, essentially stunting your growth, it's not good for you. It hurts, it limits your personal journey in understanding yourself and your place in the universe. And I really wish more people would do this kind of thing. And it's not like I'm there as an evangelist of any sort. I'm really not. I'm just simply saying, I saw this. This is what I thought it could be. What do you also think? Opening the conversation and presenting people with new parallels could also help to fuel people in their own journey. There are things that I've seen that I can just never forget, even following that house. I still remember a time where my mum visited a property, and actually it kind of became her job, really. She became a cleaner for this lady in the old place we used to live in. It's a really old, very strange house, and I used to drop her off there to work sometimes. And the lady who owned it was a really sweet old lady. You wouldn't really suspect that there would be anything bad in the house. But I remember the first time I picked her up from the house, I walked into the landing area where I just waited. And it was really strange. It seemed like a really dark room, but it was the middle of the day. And I just put that down to the fact that, the curtains were closed. The lights weren't on. Obviously, that's why it's dark. But something about it seemed like it was really, really visually dark, as if it was night. It was a really strange feeling when I came in there because, I don't know, it's almost like reality walked a little bit. And I was still at a stage back then where I was trying to hold in my paranormal experiences, not telling anybody about them. And as I waited for my mum, I walked into this stairway area where there's this large room and the stairway that went up and up and up to this doorway at the top. And the stairway itself, it didn't have much protection over it. There was like a little banister of sorts that was like a solid piece of wood. And at the top, I just thought, wouldn't that be weird, like being stood there? Like, I can imagine maybe falling off. And I had this wave of anxiety hit me. And I almost shocked myself for a moment where I jumped back because I saw somebody fall from the top of the stairway and hit the floor with tremendous force. And I just walked out of that room. I thought, okay, this doesn't feel good. Maybe it's my imagination. I mean, that's the thing we always do to play it down. I spoke to my mum a few hours after and said that there's something really odd about that place, and I don't know what it is. Have you ever felt anything? And she said, no, it's fine. I tend to just be too busy cleaning the house to even notice. And a while later, eventually, my mum brought it up in conversation with the person that owned the house, and long story short, somebody did fall from there and was severely injured. I don't know if they died or not, hopefully not. And that really weirded me out because I felt very visceral in that moment. And it was that situation, again, it also validates the fact that these things seem to be real things. We seem to have these connections. We don't just simply have just the internet to communicate with each other. We don't simply have our words and our sounds to communicate with each other. There seems to be this extra place between maybe beyond the veil. We seem to attract information from, absorb it maybe, and transmit to it. And all of these instances, like they all build up this additional level of validation. It was really strange, the fact that before my accident, a friend of mine, this lovely Muslim lady and her family, we were really good friends with her. She knew a few days before my accident when I was a kid that something bad was going to happen. She told my mum that she had a dream where she saw a man dressed in black stood at the crossing in Oxford where I was hit. How would she know that? But the description she gave perfectly matched my grandfather, who I never met, who she never met, who my mum never spoke of to her in much detail. How did she know that? How did she know to say that at exactly the right time, at exactly the right location? And yeah, I mean, I don't blame my mum for kicking herself a few days after, thinking, okay, I could have changed things. If I knew more, I could have changed fate, but it's not her fault. It's the way life works anyway. We tend to pass information between each other, but some things seem to be almost set in time, really. And it's just, the more people that I speak to through this podcast share similar stories of this sort, they've seen something that they don't understand. And I can't always provide them with answers because I wasn't there when they had those experiences. I at least offer an open ear and a potential interpretation. That could be one of many interpretations. We seem to prompt each other to question and learn more from these experiences. I wish this was more of a thing nowadays, and hopefully it will be more in the future. And I am obsessed with science. I'm obsessed with various scientific theories as we grasp to understand the universe and the way it works within our current human understanding. And I'm not a fully trained scientist, so I have a lot of respect for them. They do amazing work. I do believe a lot of what we experience could be seen as pre-science. One day, eventually, it will be proven. Thinking back to the days when fire was only seen as being created by the gods. You think about Greek mythology and I believe Perseus stealing the fire from the gods. And over the years, people saw things that they didn't understand. For example, the creation of light, not from fire or from other energies. The first light bulb, for example, it was all perceived as magic back then. That's the thing, we've gone from magic to the paranormal nowadays. We don't use the word magic, do we now? Is the paranormal not the same thing? It's a word we place upon things that we do not yet understand. And I would love to remove the word paranormal. And I do realise it is in my book. But that's why I split the word. We have para and normality. It's all about drawing the parallels away from normality and seeing that the paranormal is really part of the normal, but part of the new normal may be future normal eventually. And I spoke to a doctor the other day who actually used the term supernormal. So rather than parallel, it's supernormal. It's an additional level to our current understanding of reality. And I think that's kind of an interesting word to use. So maybe we should use the word supernormal more. I could maybe make it appear now on video. It's amazing how it can change your life when you just deal with things with such an open mind. Don't think about what your parents told you, what your friends told you, what your priest or rabbi, and obviously take all of that into account, respect them though, but don't listen to only that. When you are presented with new comparables, be the observer, take in the data, don't just resent the data for being presented to you. And if that data does affect your perception of reality with maybe a new understanding, don't be angry at it. You have to accept your understanding of the universe is so limited. We have sight, we have touch, we have taste, and so on. That's all we have. Or so we're told. We do seem to have this extra something, maybe, which allows us to acquire data and perceive certain other things. So even our known five senses, maybe there could be more. Maybe even more than the sixth sense, maybe even more than the seventh, and so on. We just seem to just be within the limits that we set, and that's where you really, really break free. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys to know what you think, really. What do you think the paranormal really is? Have we been using the word paranormal correctly over the last few years? Does it really need to be used? It'd be interesting to hear what you think. Because I would propose that we use supernormal for now until we maybe have a better word, but this isn't a parallel Paranormal is a barrier. It is the opposite of what's accepted. It's different. It's all the different things we use to describe things that maybe aren't wanted. It's in the same way that we perceive soil outside of a house as soil. Inside of a house, it's dirt. It's only dirt because it's not wanted. And that's the thing to remember. It's our perception and the way that we see the universe. I would love to know more about this entity. I mean, hopefully when this book is out there, maybe it will prompt people to share more of their experiences and make their explanations maybe of what this thing may be. So there seems to be this thing called the trauma demon, which I could say is a psychological creation. I would almost like to say that because I feel like it's easier to understand that way. But evidently what I met in the hospital was something very large. I say large because to me, perceptively, it seemed humongous, as in powerful, full of energy, vast. It seemed almost incomprehensible to a small childlike mind. Even to my adult mind now, I still struggle to understand what it showed me back in the day. And this thing followed me about the hospital, it followed me home. And I would love to get an understanding of what it may be. This thing that would sit in my room at night as I had night terrors. As I experienced these strange feelings in my bedroom at night, like of, I don't know, just the feeling of sheer terror floating through the house, but you couldn't understand why. There was no reason to feel that way. And that's maybe part of PTSD. That's a big part of it. I get that. But this thing eventually, over time, was seen by a friend of mine, a medium. She described the way it looked to a T. That scared the life out of me, because that was additional validation that this could be a real thing. And this thing I'd never described to my mum. I just said there was a dark man in my room, and that's it, no more. But she described this gnarled, tall, very almost long-fingered creature with white glowing eyes and a very intense stare, actually, that you could just about make out in the darkness. How did my friend see that? When she was dealing with it, she identified it as a potential hazard in my life to fight off, and that she did. She really went for it, bless her. And it seemed to be gone now. It seemed to have been gone for many years. I do kind of question how many people are dealing with something like that. Is it a so-called spiritual attachment? Maybe. Could it be maybe part of myself? Through trauma, you tend to disassociate and maybe compartmentalize certain parts of the horror you encounter. And the horror you encounter, yeah, I mean, you can understand you want to put it at an arm's length. So was that me taking maybe a part of myself and separating it from myself whilst I healed? Maybe. And it's that in itself I laugh because it sounds so profound. Anyway, I think about Voldemort from the Harry Potter series, having his various Horcruxes, essentially storing parts of his soul in various objects to give him immortality. In this instance, it was more me trying to separate a part of myself to survive, something quite tremendous. And I do look back and I do have regrets that I never felt like I lived my childhood. I spent a long time trying to fit in. Spent a long time trying to understand what happened to me. And the kids just didn't like it at the time. They felt very nervous around me. And I didn't mean to make them feel that way. I was a very quiet kid and did my absolute best to try and be as almost invisible as possible. I did as well as I could do at school, so I didn't get in trouble. I was friendly to my friends, but remained at a distance. I felt like I couldn't get close to people because it's like there's a darkness that hangs around you from a young age that you can never quite get rid of. And it's something that, yes, it's very, very hard for me to talk about, I admit. But these events do take away a childhood, because what can be provided to you is help for psychological trauma, helping the brain and the psyche, help with physical trauma. I had various therapy there to help me to learn to walk again, learn to just use this body as it healed. They did a great job back then. There's a part of all this where there is no help. The religion I had at the time didn't even believe in this kind of thing. I couldn't tell my family because even if I did tell them, what could they have done? I had to fight this thing on my own for years as the activity ramped up and ramped up and ramped up in our property at Sweetman's Road. Imagine just a little kid just being left on their own to face the darkness, that a darkness that can't be seen by others, that can't be comprehended, dealt with, measured. It's something as an adult I've had to accept. That's partly why I do have quite a childish nature now as a grown-up, because I've almost come to slowly accept what's happened and then have this need to relive aspects of my childhood. Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to get teary now as well, but and that's why the beauty of kids come into your life. Kids can really change your perception and understanding of the world. I have two lovely kids now. They're growing up really fast, and vicariously through them, I feel like I'm living my childhood with them, because I get to do things with them that if I was an adult, I'd be seen as being completely mad. But if you do it with a kid, it's perfectly okay. So I have a lot of fun with them, and they've helped me to understand what it's like to be a kid and have that nurturing moment in life where you don't worry about others' perceptions of you, societal expectations, and just various aspects of what you should be doing as an adult. And the new memories that I'm building with my kid are taking away from the scary memories I've had. So I've been back to Oxford a few times with them recently, and I've been to places where I've experienced quite scary things, and now I have new memories with them. The John Radcliffe Hospital that saved my life, I unfortunately discovered this horrible entity, was the place that my children were born at, or at least one of them. Now I have new memories in that place rather than of me dying. I have memories of life, rebirth, of new beautiful life coming to this world. So yeah, I would like to say it is possible for you to move on from these things. Like I say, with me writing this book, that's been a big part of it. I am hoping my kids read this book when they're older. And it's a bit too scary for them to read now, and it's quite complex. But with this experience, I want them to know as adults that these things can happen. And I'm not going to tell them what to believe, what to do, because they need to discover that on their own. I've been very protective of that, of all the life, really. I didn't want to decide a religion for them. I didn't want to decide a philosophy for them. I'm happy to share, should they ask, what I've seen, allow them to conclude. And that's the gift I want to give them, the gift of discovery, rather than the gift of restriction. That's where we move away with the word paranormal to this new observable reality as we enter the supernormal. It's a weird sounding word. I can't quite get used to it just yet. Yeah, I mean, this is my little heartfelt push into why the paranormal isn't what you think it is. In conclusion, the paranormal is a force-fed barrier designed to limit you in your progress being your evolution of understanding of self, understanding of yourself in the universe and how the universe works. I've blown apart the paranormal at this point and can't ever go back. And I do have a fascination with a lot of other religions. I do love going to churches. I've always wanted to go into a mosque, actually. I haven't had a chance to do that just yet, but I really, really would love to. I can understand people and their experiences, why they believe in those things, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as what they believe in doesn't make them do bad things, of course. But if they want to believe in that defined reality, have at it. I fully respect that. But really, there's a new kind of religion evolving, I suppose, and I'm not talking about religion in terms of defined standards and belief systems and such. I'm talking about a body of people now beginning to realize, actually, maybe I'm more of a spiritual person, but I'm a spiritual observer. It seems to be more of a common thing, and more people that are coming onto my podcast are really part of that slow awakening, realizing that the old standards and the old rules no longer apply, and that more can be drawn from life. And it's only made life so much more beautiful. So yeah, I look forward to sharing more of this book as time goes by. For now, stay questioning, stay appreciating, and keep being the explorers of the universe that you deserve to be. And you are really acknowledging that first step when you subscribe to this podcast, as well as many others. I know there's many others out there that I love who are doing the same thing. But you joining us on this journey is you beginning to open up your understanding of the universe as you build more comparables to better understand yourself and maybe learn to love yourself a bit more too. So Yeah, so with a heartfelt thank you for watching this video. I did drone on a little bit, but I really wanted this one to be real and from the heart, not edited too much, just me being myself. I'm very much a deep, deep thinker. And it's being a deep thinker that's allowed me to derive some meaning and some joy from life in understanding its intricacies. So, yeah, you guys take care.
Choice, sharing dreams and blowing off steam. We'll lend you a hand, we'll let you stand, sharing stories about the unknown. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from the unknown. Who you gonna call? I'm not a ghostbuster, no proton packs, just crossing streams of knowledge. It's not so scary when things get hairy. It's not the paranormal, just future normal. Breaking barriers, no longer the carrier, releasing the fear and replacing it with knowledge. Understanding each other, we uncover a whole new point of view within you. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from the unknown. The only stream we need to cross is the platforms to get the message across. Knowing each other, sister to brother. No ghost or spirit or demon will ever get the better of this medium. Paranormal perspectives, we're here to inspect it. I'm a small, not a medium. Let us escape from this tedium, learning from each other, breaking barriers, a message of hope, birthed from